Hi everyone, so welcome to this TypeScript session, and I'm Bikash from Bhutan Tech Community, and today we'll be learning like what is TypeScript, what are its features, and how to write your code in TypeScript. So before moving, I just want to give a brief intro on TypeScript. TypeScript is a programming language developed and still maintained by Microsoft, and it gives a lot of features which gives you flexibility to write code in TypeScript, and whatever code you write in TypeScript is very understandable. Like it gives you that user readability thing. So yeah, with that, let's dive into it. So first thing, what's TypeScript? So TypeScript is nothing but it's just a superset of JavaScript. So what do you understand by that? So which means whatever the features are there in JavaScript is all available in TypeScript. And out of box is also it also gives you some additional features. So that's why like TypeScript is the superset of JavaScript. All right. And here I just want to pinpoint that those people who are just started learning JavaScript, I recommend you first learn JavaScript completely, then you can move on to TypeScript. That way you'll have better understanding on these two languages, and that way your like learning path will be much more easier. All right. Okay, so now why do we need TypeScript? As I told you, TypeScript is nothing but JavaScript with some additional features, right? So it's a superset of JavaScript. But here, why do we need TypeScript? So we need TypeScript because it gives you some good. Here are some good key points like it's strongly typed or static typing. So TypeScript, whenever you write a code in TypeScript, it strictly checks for the types, like whatever you declare or whatever you return in TypeScript, right? So everything is strongly typed. And another thing is like it has object-oriented features. Like you can use most of the features of object-oriented programming, like classes, encapsulation, inheritance, everything. So that's why TypeScript has this object-oriented feature. And like compile time errors, the third one. So compile time error, like this is the good thing in TypeScript. Like whenever you compile, which is like TypeScript codes are basically compiled by TypeScript compiler. So whenever it compiles a code, that time only your compiler will catches your error, and it will give an error in the compile time itself. So you don't have to go for like your program doesn't have to run like fully, right? So whenever it gets compiled, that time only the error will throw. So all right, so next, TypeScript compositions. So what TypeScripts are composed of? All right, so TypeScripts are composed of variables, modules, functions, classes, interface, data types, generics, decorators, and more. So these are like compositions of TypeScript, which basically means like, as I told you, TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. So in JavaScript you have variable declaration, those things, right? So on top of that, like you have more additional features in TypeScript. So these are the things, and so these are the available IDs for TypeScript. So whenever you write a code in TypeScript, you need to check for types and everything, right? So I recommend you to go through these IDs. You can pick any one of these. So with this, now let's go to installation. So what are the things we need to install TypeScript? So first thing, we need Node.js. So what is Node.js? It's just a package manager which will help us to install TypeScript on our local machine. All right. So with this, let's go to installation process. All right. So this is the official site to download Node.js. All right. So you can download for Windows, Mac, and for Linux, and you can download this LTS versions as well. Right, so once like you click on this, it will automatically start downloading the Node.js in your system. And one thing I just want to tell you is, like, if you find difficulties in installing Node.js in your system, please, you can browse through sources or internet, like find a better way to install Node.js in your system. And if you want like more than 2-3 versions, like you can also use NVM, which is the Node version manager, which actually basically manages all of your Node.js version in your system. So NVM is the one. And yeah, so after this one, like after downloading, you can click on this and install this one. So then after you install, go to your terminal and type node -v, like, which will basically gives you the version of the node. So this will give the version, like I have right now version 10.15.3. So now after this, now you can use the npm -l. So this will give all the list of comments that you can use in this Node.js. Right, so now what we need is we need npm install. So in order to install TypeScript, like we can do npm install -g TypeScript, right? So there, so npm install -g type. So what -g means is, like, we are installing it globally. It will be available throughout your system. All right, so that's why we need to give this flag like -g. So whenever we do this, like, it will take some time to, yeah, so this will install TypeScript in your system. Alright, so what is TypeScript compiler? Well, TypeScript compiler is a process like where your TypeScript code is compiled into JavaScript. Alright, so why do we need compiler? Because, so in order to make our code run throughout the browsers, we need this compiler. For example, for instance, like we have myfile.ts. So TypeScript uses .ts extension in the files. So myfile.ts will not run anywhere. So it won't run in your browser nor in Node. So all we need is TypeScript compiler to compile this TS code into JavaScript code, and that will be readable by the browser. So browser will be able to read that file and it will run. Alright, so how this compiling process happens is, like, first you have this code.ts file. TypeScript compiler will come in and you give that file to TypeScript compiler. The TypeScript compiler will compile that code and it will give us a new file. Alright, this is the process of compilation. Now we'll be looking into how this happens in practical. So now we have installed TypeScript in our system. So now let's try to look at its version. So we'll do tsc -v. So this will give you the version of the TypeScript. So currently we're running 3.9.5 version. Okay, so we'll be using this command. Let's first make a new folder. Let's rename this folder as ts demo. Alright, and we'll try to open this folder in VS Code editor. So I think this VS Code editor is very lightweight, and you can use it to write your TypeScript codes. Alright, so now we have TS demo folder inside our VS Code editor. So here, this little icon next to the demo folder will create a new file inside this folder. So we'll click on this and we need to give a name, so let's give it a name, main.ts. Here I'm giving like .ts extension to this file, so that I'm saying like let's create a TypeScript file. So if it were in JavaScript file, then it would be like .js, but for now we'll go with .ts file. Okay, so this is a TypeScript file. Oh, sorry. So we'll open a terminal down below. Okay, so here we'll just write console log from script. So we'll write hello from TypeScript, and now we'll try to run this one. So what we have to do is now we have to make this ts file into a JavaScript file. So we'll be doing it by typing tsc main.ts. So what are we doing is like we're telling this TypeScript compiler to take this main.js file and compile it for us. Okay, so if you run this, you'll notice in the left side like we have a new file which is main.js file. Okay. So if you look into this main.js file, like we have the same content as main.ts file. Okay, so both are same. So now we can run this main.js file by using node. So node main.js. Yeah, so here this is how we print a message from main.js file. Okay, so now we can also like look for changes, like minor changes happening inside. Like, I don't want to run this code every time, right? ts.main. What we can do is we can give a flag like watch watch. So if we do this, it will look for every changes happening inside. So what we can do is we'll change this message to hello world, and when you save this one, the right side, the main.js file will also change. See, so this gets changed. Okay, so this is how we can use this TypeScript compiler in order to like look for any changes happening. Okay, alright, so with that, so let's clear this one. Let's stop this server. Clear. Okay, so now next we'll be moving into variable declarations. Okay, so next is the variable declaration. So traditionally we had this var keyword for declaring a variable in JavaScript, and now with ES6 or ES 2015 they have introduced two new keywords for declaring a variable. So those are let and const. So we use let whenever we want to reassign a variable a new value, and we use const whenever we don't want to reassign any new values to the variable. Okay, so if we look at the example, so let town equal to Thimphu, and now town equal to, now we are reassigning this one as Paro. Okay, so now let allows us to reassign this new value to the given variable, which is the town. And if we change this let to const, now we cannot reassign it, because const we cannot assign new variable to reassignment is not possible in const. Okay, so that's the difference, but it will work for var. Okay, var and let are almost similar. So with this, now next we'll be moving to a scope of a variable. So what is scope? So scope determines like the accessibility of that variable. So we have both we have local and global scope. So let me demonstrate you. Let town equals to theme. Okay, so we already have that one. So let's just go with this one. Let town equal to thimpu, and let's have a function which will get places, and console log town, and we will get this down here. So if we run this function, like we'll get this down here. So tsc main.ts, so main.ts, so this will just make changes in our main.js file. So if we look at this one, so our TypeScript file is compiled to JavaScript file, and if we run this one, node main.js, so here we get thimpu. Okay, so this one is printed, this message is printed down there. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this one inside the function right here, and let me give this down to as paro. Okay, so let down to be paro, and I'll console log this one here, down to. Okay, so this down one is thimpu and down two is paro. So if you try to run this one, we first compile it, then we'll run it. So we have two prints which are like the thimpu and paro from this function, but if we try to print this down to like outside the function, now we'll get a runtime error, like it says cannot find down to it. Okay, so this variable is not in the scope of in this label. So this down to is inside this function, so that's why it's not available here. So what we can, so what is available is the down one. Okay, so this is available. So if we compile this one and run, now we'll have three prints. So this will be printed as thimpu paro thimpu. Okay, so that's the scope of a variable. Alright, so let's look into the basic types in TypeScript. So we have this types. The first one is Boolean, number, string, array, tuple, enum, array, void, null or undefined, never, and objects. So these are the types. We'll go one by one. So let me copy this one and paste it over here. Just comment this one out. Okay. So first one is Boolean. So Boolean is basically a simple type which will just hold two types of values. So is Saturday Boolean. So is it can be either true or false, right? So we can have this. We can give this two values to this type. And numbers. Number is like we will let 1 week is a number type. Let's give 1 is equal to 7. So 1 week equal to 7 days, right? So this one, the number will explicitly hold a floating value, okay, and string let okay, let's give this month is equal to June. So we write a string inside double quotation or single quotation. So we can either write in double quotation or in single quotation. Okay, so it's annotated by double quotation or single quotation. So now the next is array. So array is a collection of items. Okay, so what we can do is we can give let numbers number list. What we can give number list is 1 2 3 4 and so on, right? So this is an array, like it will hold this value, and if you give let let's say some list, let's give some list to let's give these values, right? The first boolean, which is true, and second one week is 7, and the third one, the string is June. Okay, so what it means is, like, whenever we do this one, so it becomes a tuple, so it will hold more than one data types. So an array holding more than one data types will become a tuple. Okay, so next is enum. So enum type are like basically we use it like in it's an incremental assignment type. So how we can give is like enum, let's give weekdays. So first week, let's give Monday. Okay, let's give start from 1, Tuesday, Wednesday, so like this, right? So enum will, if we hover over to month, so you can see Monday is 0, so enum starts with 0. So let's give it here. Default starts with 0, and Tuesday we have 1, Wednesday 2, and similarly it goes till Sunday 6. Okay, 6 because it starts with 0, but we can change this, and we can tell, like, let's not start from 0, let's start from 1. So I want to give a Monday a value of 1 at first. So how we can do is we can give this Monday equal to 1. So now if we hover over this, so Monday is 1, Tuesday is 2. Similarly, if you go to Sunday becomes 7. Okay, so if you go here and see, the Sundays become 7. So this is how you can, like, give num type. And if you want to assign this num type to a variable, this is how you can do it. Let uh, holiday is equal to weekday dot Sunday. Okay, now this holiday is weekday, so the Sunday is 7, right? So if we try to console log this one, so log holiday, it should print 7. So let's try and we'll compile this one. Okay, let me first save this one and compile it. Now we can do Node main.js. Okay, so see, so here we have just printed 7, and if we do Saturday, it will print 6. Okay, so this is the num type. Now let's look at type any. Let me clear this one. Okay, console also, clear the console. Okay, so let's move on to type any. So it is a type like the TypeScript gives to have some flexibility in writing your code. So you don't always want to like give an explicit type to a variable, right? So what it does is like it will give an uh, you'll have that flexibility to give any type to that variable. So if we see here in example, so let country be of type any, alright, or let's not give any type declaration, and let's see, let's give Bhutan. So this is type so it will implicit, this is an implicit type, so if we give this type directly, so it will recognize as a string, so we don't need to like give it as string or anything, right? So but if we don't write this one and if you hover over this, so it becomes, so it implicitly like gives as type any. And then if we write country country equals, okay, sorry, country equals Bhutan, now still is any because we have this one any. Now if we give a type, now we can give this not a string but number, 4. Okay, so it can hold any types, so either we can give any or it can have this type. So I hope you understood like what also it can have a Boolean type as well, like false. So all the types will work here. And sorry, I forgot to give a type here in string, so it should be a string. So this will be a set of array of numbers. So how we can give is array of number, or we can also give it another like number, this one. Okay, so here also we can give array of like number, and we'll use a union type, so this can be string also. So but we don't have the boolean here, so if we pass boolean, so now this will be a valid one, but we can also give as any. Okay, so these are the types. So now next we'll move on to void. So void is nothing like it won't do anything, like by the name itself, like it's a void. Void means like it doesn't have anything, it won't return anything, especially it's used in functions. So function like my day will be of type void. Okay, if you console log dot log my day good day. Okay, so if we see here my day, so we have, so we're giving explicit type to my day function, but if we don't give this type, so it will implicitly give a type as void, because it won't return anything. Okay, but comment this one out and write return hello. So now this function is returning a type of string. Okay, so it will implicitly give it a type. So if we try to give a void, then this will throw an error, right? So hope you understood what is void. Null and undefined. So null has its own value, and undefined has also its own value, so both of them have their value respectively. So if you see here, let test1 is of type null, which is equal to null. Okay, and similarly test2 type undefined, which is equal to type undefined. And also we can, so if you see here, so test1 is null, of type null, and test2 is of type null. So if we give here test1 as the first variable as equal to undefined, so this one is null, so it can also hold the value of undefined. And similarly, the second option value can have null. Okay, so this is undefined, but it can also have null. But if we try to give a string, so it will say, it will throw an error. Okay, that's basically null and undefined. And one thing, like when we test this one, like if we see undefined is not equal to null. Okay, so this will be true, and if we say like if undefined is equal to null, then this will be false. So these both are not the same thing, but they hold their own values. Okay, but JavaScript and TypeScript, they treat it as same. Okay, alright, so let's move on to the next type, which is never. So never type is a block of code, or is a variable that is never run or never accessible. Okay, so if we see an example, let's look into some example function. Let's say places function. We'll just give a places function. So here we'll give a value of let's say place or value. Okay, so this value can be of string. So if so we'll just console log, so dot log value. So now this value is of type string. Okay, and if we write here, so now how can you make a value like not accessible is by doing like if this type of value is equal to string, okay, then console log this value, else console log another value, this one, same value. Okay, so what we are doing is we're explicitly checking for this type. So the value type is string or not, then only we are printing or something. So if we hover over here, the first one, the value is string, so it will get string value. Okay, the type is string. But if you look at this value, the value type is never. That which means like this block of code is not reachable, so it's unreachable and it's never run. Okay, and now let's like expand this function and we'll use a union type here. So let's give it a number. So this value can be either a string or a number. So what it means is like we can pass either a string or number. So if you look at this first value that we had previously, like this is still a string, right? Because we are explicitly checking for this one. But now if you look at the second value, now you have this value type as number. So now this is number. Okay, because if this is not a string, then else it will go into this block. So now this is reachable, okay, because it has probability of getting these two types of data. But still, like if we check for like, else if again if we check for type of value is equal to number, okay, then we'll console log this one. So if we look at, so this is still a number, right? The first one is string, second one is number, and now if you look at the third one, now it's again back to the never type. Okay, never type. So which means like this block of code is again not accessible anymore. Like we are explicitly checking for these two types inside these two conditions. This is how TypeScript like implicitly gives a variable a value of never. Okay, so now the next on objects. So objects are non-primitive types, and it's basically a key value pair. So you'll have a key and a value. All right, so an object, so if we give it example, let's give an obj object a type. Let's not give a type, let's directly give an object. Okay, so this is an object. So object will have an empty object. So this is an empty object. So what we'll write is we'll write name dash right? City, simple. Okay, now this object has type inferring, like it will have a name as string and city as string. By doing this, now how we can access an object. Now if you want only name to be printed, so how we can do this is by doing console.log obj dot name. Okay, this way you'll get name as this one dash, and similarly if we do city, then you'll get the another value. So this is how you can write an object. And also you can give a type to an object. So if we want to give this type not implicitly but explicitly, so how we can do is we can do this one inside an object. We can give this as a key. Key will be of string and value will be of string. All right, so this is how we give an explicit type to an object. So if we do this, so you have the key is string and the value is also in string. All right, but if I try to give this number, okay, so this is key. If I try to give another thing, another value like born on, born 2020, so it won't give me like it's not making me to assign this type to this, because we have already given it as a string. So all we need to do is give a string. So that way we can have an explicit type on objects, right? Okay, so now next is I want what we can next is like we have type assertions. Okay, so in type assertions, like we're specifically giving a type to a variable, or that we do in typecasting. So there are two ways of doing type assertion or typecasting. So one way is by giving an angle bracket syntax, by using that angle bracket syntax, and another way is by using the keyword as. Okay, so let's assume that some values. Okay, so this value is of type any right now. Okay, we'll keep it like that. Now let's give other value and assign this value. Okay, so what we are doing is we're giving this value, the first value, to this second value. Okay, some value is type any and the other value is also a type of any. But if we give type assertion here, so how we can do is like we can give by doing the angle braces in front of the variable that we're assigning to this variable. So right now this other value is any. So if we give here as string, now this becomes a string, but this still is an any, like this still is of type any, right? But here we have like we have done type inferring or type assertion to this value. So by doing this type assertion, we're doing type inferring in this other value, so the other value type changes. Okay, and another way is to do with let's comment this one out. Other ways to do is by with the as keyword, as, so we can give as string. Now also this one also gives a string as number. Now it's changed to number. This is still a type of any. Okay, so this is what a type assertion can do to a variable. And the next thing is let's go to the next thing is custom types. Okay, so what is custom types? So custom types are the types that we explicitly give to a variable, that we will define our own type, like user defined types, right? So if we see an example, so how can we define types in TypeScript? So all we need to do is using the type keyword, type. All right, so let's say this is a message type, okay. So this message type will hold hello or hi. Let's stick to hello for now. So this message type is of type hello. So if we do let SMS this message, so this is of type message type. So here we have to do, whenever you define a type, okay, you have to use Pascal case. So Pascal case here, and on defining a variable you have to use camel case. So that's some convention of like a program JavaScript and TypeScript. Okay, so here we are giving this message type to an SMS. Now what we can do is let's try to give a value here. So see the VS Code ID recognizes as like it can hold only the type hello. Okay, so if you give hello, then the type is matched and we don't get any errors. But if we give hi, we get an error like type hi is not assignable to type hello. Okay, so now we can use a union type here. So message type can be have hello and hi. Now we can assign this to message type. Okay, so this is how we can define our own custom types in TypeScript. Okay, so that's it for today's session. I hope you got the overview of TypeScript and types. So yeah, thank you.